One of the interesting tidbits coming out of Canadiens camp as we're into speculation season, right, is what we think the Canadiens are going to do. And last week, Marco kind of laid the groundwork for pick 16 and 17 coming up at the NHL entry draft. What are the Canadiens going to do? Are they taking calls? Are they the ones making calls? Well, NHL insiders over the last 7 days or so, Marco, have been talking about what they're hearing as it relates to potential activity from Ken Hughes and Jeff Gorton and the Habs front office. And one of the interesting tidbits for me, and I have been vehemently against the concept of this, with the full level understanding, in order to get, you got to give, right? So they talk about picks 16 and 17. There are also reports speculating that Logan Mailloux is being dangled to get what brought back. We can speculate on that. Is it that top four RHD? The New York Islanders, is that someone they would look at in a sign and trade of Noah Dobson to Montreal? Pick 16 and 17 again. So I want to start and pick your brain on Logan Mailloux for a second. And I don't fully grasp why there seems to be this never-ending smoke around Logan Mailloux being dangled. I just can't get over the hump when it comes to Mailloux's game and what he might, not who he is, who he might turn into. I don't see it. I don't see who can do the job, play good minutes, play rough, defend teammates, score goals, provide offense. I don't see it. I don't see it in Laval. I don't see it on the NHL team. Tell me I'm crazy that I do not want to lose Logan Mailloux unless it's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Your thoughts
Yeah,
behind the storyline of Logan Mailloux being dangled. Let's start there.
yeah, I've seen people that have thrown Logan Mailloux in trade proposals
Yeah.
with the Canadiens' first round pick to try and move up in the draft.
Okay.
That would be a waste of asset, in my honest opinion. The Canadiens have second round picks that they can attach to their first round picks if they decide they want to move up a couple of spots to draft a guy that's falling or that is clearly of higher value than his rank. That's fine. And I get that. But if you're going to trade a guy like Logan Mailloux, like we talked about this, right? He may not be worth as much as the 16th overall pick, but he's definitely worth as much as the rank that he was drafted at, which was 31st. Because in this draft, there are maybe 3, 4 at most, if I'm being generous, right shot defensemen that are in the same mold as him. There's Radim Murtka, who I would consider to be, better in terms of potential. And then you got guys like Hensler that play in the NCAA that are about the same potential, like top 4, but don't provide that offense. Right. And so there's other guys, I believe, like Fiddler as well, that kind of fit that mold. But he has value in the sense that it's not a very top end right shot defenseman draft. Last year you had guys that really kind of took your attention. You like Artyom Levshinov, Zane Parekh, Carter Yakimchuk. These were right shot defensemen that are probably going to be playing top of the lineup, like first, number 1 Ds, top pair Ds. Those are so incredibly hard to find. It's the reason why the Canadiens decided to take their shot at a guy like David Reinbacher, because to acquire someone like him, we're talking about Noah Dobson, the package that is going to be necessary to acquire him,
oh my God,
fans don't even want to know if he's ever made available, which we'll probably discuss at a later date. But when you look at the Canadiens with a guy like Logan Mailloux, they're not just going to give him away. Right? Like a lot of people are going to be complaining right now about, Mailloux looks terrible. His defense is bad. He's making bad decisions. He looks, some of his passes look weak. Logan Mailloux's, talked about this already. I'm going to reiterate for those that aren't in the know. Logan Mailloux's playing very injured right now. In fact, the Canadiens the Laval Rocket can't afford him not to be in the lineup now. They're already short a couple of defensemen already. And to lose Mailloux would basically be the nail in the coffin on their defensive side of things.
But what about the patient approach of building this guy up as opposed to I understand your point about right-handed defensemen that are available at the draft, and the projected opinion is that they could be better or at the same level as Logan. But Logan is playing professional hockey in a men's league, developing, scoring points, learning how to become a leader. That in itself is an expedited way. If they're going to, in the hypothetical world that they lose Logan to a trade, right? Hopefully it betters the NHL club and then they're starting over again, developing who they hope to be the next version of this guy. It's just when I watch the NHL playoffs, when I look at how teams are being built and how they're having success, and I'll tie it
Mhm.
back into the COVID year with, when the Canadiens were good in the playoffs, Joel Edmondson, Shea Weber, Ben Sherratt, these were nasty customers. And I just don't, again, I'm going to repeat myself. The Canadiens don't have nasty guys. And Logan Mailloux has the best potential to be that guy, Marco. And you need that in
Understood.
the playoffs.
Understood. But I mean, you could also make the argument that you have a guy already like that in Arbor Jacki who is nasty. You have a guy like Caden Gooley
Is he
that
a
can
good
lay the
defenseman,
hit.
though?
I I I think that Arbor Jacki is a better defenseman
Yeah.
than Logan Mailloux in terms of being
Okay.
able to play defense.
Okay.
So I'll put them on the same wavelength. The other thing to keep in consideration, though, is that Arbor Jacki is about 2 years older than Logan Mailloux. So kind of,
Right.
but Logan Mailloux's offense, I think there's maybe one defenseman in the entire organization that's got more offense than him. And his name is Lane Hudson. I think in terms of pure offensive ability, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that I think that um, David Reinbacher's transition game is going to help him pile in the points at the NHL level more so than what his ability would lead one to assume that he would be able to get in terms of a point total. You see him in the playoffs right now for the Laval Rocket. A good amount of, like I think close to half a point per game in terms of getting points
Mm-hmm.
in this run. And, the defense has gotten better and better and better for him. Like he's clearly you're seeing him evolve. And so a guy like him, I could see, but in terms of pure offensive ability, there isn't one player in
Wow.
this entire organization that has the cannon that Logan Mailloux
Yeah.
has. And the only one that's really close to having that kind of a cannon, in my honest opinion, like the one-time cannon, is actually David Reinbacher, who's got a pretty wicked, like underrated one-timer. And
Agreed
then
for what I've
maybe
seen.
Caden Gooley, who we saw take way more shooting like opportunities down the stretch. We remember those 2 goals that he scored, towards the end of the season. Really good shooting ability, but he's got to do it more often. So Mailloux has that ability, which is the reason why, some Canadiens fans may be very low on him. Some Canadiens fans I've seen in the comments say that, he could be as good as, some of the elite defensemen in the NHL. I think there's somewhere in the middle where I
I
think
hope.
he could be an
Excuse
effective
me.
NHL defenseman. I think he
Yeah.
could be a kind of guy that will eventually make the league. And the thing with the Canadiens is, when they got to a point where they needed him, they called him up, right? They didn't even bother calling up a William Trudeau, who's been there longer. Adam Engstrom, they wanted to leave him there for a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
Mailloux has value. And I think that,
Oh, yeah.
the other thing I want to correct is, Chris Johnson didn't say that they were dangling him. They said that he could be available in the right
Yep.
trade. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like the Canadiens are there actively shopping him. Teams are calling them about him. There's the difference. And the reason
Right.
why I say that and why this is going to sound crazy, and I don't mean I'm not here to like prop up the Canadiens. I don't work for them. I'm not like, but this is the logic, and this is the reason why there are not a lot of right shot defensemen available.
Right.
And there are
Right.
even few under the age of 25. If you look at the last 5 drafts, it hasn't been very rich when it comes to right shot defensemen outside of last year.
So what would you
So
want then? What's a fair? Give me your fair. Logan Mailloux has been traded by the Montreal Canadiens. What's coming back the other way in your mind? I know it's not
has
the fairest question of the world, but like, what would it be NHL wise, and what do you think they could get if they? You mentioned it in passing at the beginning of this that maybe they would dangle him in hopes of moving up the draft. How high up could they move? Like, what's his bound? Try to pinpoint what his value is outside of the 514, 438, and 450. 4182.
so one of the things that I would say is the Canadians have stated that they don't want to make lateral moves.
Right. Good.
Therein lies where I'm going with this. I don't see them trading him for futures. I don't see him being used as a trade up throw in. I see him as the key prospect or one of in a trade for a top 6 or top 4 presence. That's the only way You move
Good.
guys like this. And we talked about this already. The view on this draft is not very high after the top 20. And you could even argue the top 10 in some cases. But
Right.
I believe that there are a good amount of players that moved up in this draft in terms of appreciation. And even more so now that a lot of them are moving from their junior leagues to the NCAA. We'll get into that in a bit. But when you take into account the value of this draft, we talk about ready-made prospects, sure things, closer to the NHL. There is value in that. Value that maybe, someone watching him on the ice, maybe not thinking, but if you're thinking like a general manager and you're building a team, how many potential top four right shot defensemen are available on the market right now? Not many. And when they are available, teams are excited about it. So that's the reason why a team like, say, the Anaheim Ducks last year were willing to trade a Trevor Zegras and a second-round pick for a late first-round pick and Logan Mailloux, because there was an appreciation for Logan Mailloux. And so teams are always looking for right shot defensemen. But the counter, and this is a nota bene. This is a caution in the wind here.
Ciao, ragazzo.
Yeah, this is just be careful. They don't grow on trees. So if the Canadiens do decide to move a player like Logan Mailloux, they're gonna have to cover their bases and right shot D, because after that they have David Reinbacher and maybe Bogdan Konuchkov in Russia that comes over.
When they traded me, I got the PTSD, Mikhail Sergachev. When you're talking to me about I'm not saying one for one. I'm not saying him. It's the potential, who this player might be. Everything you said about young RHDs, how rare, how good, how valuable they are. You have one.
You know who he reminds me of in terms of potential? And I'm going to have to go back. So for the younger guys, I feel old really saying this, but for the younger guys following this channel, I'll just YouTube him. He reminds me a lot of Joe Corvo. I don't know if you remember him when he played for the Senators. That kind of nasty but offensive defenseman, that's his style, right? So if he can become that, that's a nota bene. But I don't think it's going to be like a Sergachev level. Still very serviceable defenseman in the NHL. The teams will pay to have, but he has to hit that level, right?
I'm practicing my Italian for my trip to the motherland coming up at the end of August. So, nota bene.
We're gonna have to teach you another one. Non posso più. I can't anymore.
Listen, we're gonna go hardcore.
Marco, thanks as always for an outstanding week. I hope you guys enjoyed the added bonus coverage this week. A little pleasant surprise, I hope. We went a little bit longer than what you're used to in the offseason, but happy to provide it for you because we love you. Marco, thanks, brother. We'll see you. Let's do it again next week. Thank you again.
Take care, everybody.